No Man Left Behind by William Shick. Explosion ripped apart the earth, sending great chunks of rock and soil to the rain down on Major Elizabeth Maddox and the quickly retreating Cygnarian soldiers. The warcaster heard a trencher sergeant shout for smoke, and in the moments her nostril was stung by the familiar alkylium smell. Protectorate troops had ambushed Maddox's small force on routine patrol along the Black River, which defended Cygnar's eastern border. Near as she could figure it, the attackers were part of a large army marching north to Lal along the well-known resupply route of the Cygnarian troops had nicknamed Manit Alley. For almost a decade, Cygnar had held back imperialist conquestors, fanatical crusaders, and even the empire of Drakenblight undead from the consuming of the Iron Kingdoms. While Cygnar allowed the Manites to move supplies unmolested provided its borders were respected, the religious fanatics seized every opportunity to harass non-believers. In their twisted worldview, all humanity was under the law of Manoth, the Creator. It was their duty to bring Manoth's judgment by fire and sword. The Cygnarian acknowledgment of Manoth, but must had abandoned him centuries ago for favor of the god of morrow. To the Manites, such belief were the ongoing declaration of war. "Let's have a look, Buster," Maddox thought as she used the arcane mental connection she shared with her ironclad to peer through its eyes. The 6-ton warjack's scrappy personality had earned the nickname, and even now she could feel its eagerness to charge back into the fight. Maddox's brow furrowed as he saw the Protectorate troops weren't pursuing, only hurrying the retreating Cygnarians with the inaccurate long-range rockets to their deliverers units. The Protectorate's force outnumbered hers by a decent margin. In addition, the Manites had a pair of Crusader-heavy warjacks, and even though this force lacked in warcaster, it included a soldier trained to marshal warjacks verbally. In short, they had all her on the ropes. Why stop now? Returning her attention to the soldiers surrounding her, she performed a quick count of the platoon and felt a cold dread grip her chest. "Who are we missing?" she called out the battlefield din. "Calkins, ma'am! Took a crossbow bolt in the ambush." The voice belonged to Sergeant Owens, and Maddox scanned the platoon for him. "Killed?" Maddox asked. "Can't say for sure." Maddox immediately beloved for her trencher platoon officer, Lieutenant Hurst. When he answered, she said, "We lost a Private Calkins during our retreat. We need to get back to him." The lieutenant shook his head. "Ma'am, the Manites will have our dead to rights if we are going back there." Owens spoke again. "I hate to say it, Major, but he's right. The ambush hit us hard. We are got a bunch of wounded, and we are dangerously low on ammo and smoke grenades. I don't like leaving a man behind, but going back risks the entire platoon," Hurst added. Maddox felt the scars beneath her warcaster armor prickle uncomfortably at the thought of the fate awaiting those captured by the Protectorate. A rush to the agonizing memories flashed through her mind. She was not about to let one of her men suffer the same ordeal. She did bother looking for the trencher's faces. She knew what was there. Since her escape from the Protectorate sample prison months before, she became all well accustomed to seeing that look from fellow soldiers. Pity, shame, uncertainty. She's rotted in that cell for nearly 4 years. At the first, the priest had asked various questions at the end of their torture impalements. She gritted her teeth and sweated and screamed and spit, and they got nothing from her. Then the interrogator stopped, and eventually she learned that the Caspia soul had ended. She prepared for her release, but never came. The scrutinators had ordered her kept against the need for further integration, but had never returned. As a warcaster, she was too dangerous to simply release, and her jailers instead fed her lies to poison her spirit. Cygnar knows you are here, they told her, and out of shame they do nothing. Most people would have been broken by the experience. That was, after all, what the priesthood of Protectorate excelled at, destroying a person's will by fire and pain. But Elizabeth Maddox was not easy to break. She had waited, biding her time until the opportunity had presented itself. And when it had come, she had escaped, bringing several other prisoners out with her. She had returned to the hero's welcome, to her face plastered across recruitment posters and newspapers. She had favorite daughter of Caspian thought lost, who had clawed her way out of hell, only to be served her beloved Cygnar once more in its fight against the enemies that surrounded it. The story was less compelling to the men and women they fought beside. War was dangerous enough without having to worry about the stability of your commanding officer. Everyone knew who the Protectorate treated heretics, and Maddox didn't fault them by questioning how any could have come out of it sane. Sometimes she wasn't even sure herself. Once the intentional experiment had died down, she could have gone home to her family and farm. Morrow knew she had earned a little peace in life. But she rose to the fighter, tough and loyal and stalwart in duty. She needed to prove to herself, as much as to everyone else, that minutes hadn't broke her. That she has still been Beth Maddox. Someday she will hang out her volcanic sword and go back to the simple life, but until she had soldiered to save in minutes to kill. She leveled her steady gaze to her officers. He's alive, or the minutes would have given chase right now. Owens frowned. Why do go all to this trouble to capture a single private? Because to them, breaking even one heroic is the wreck a step toward ultimate victory. As she spoke, Maddox mentally stoked the arcane turbine in her warcaster armor, feeling the familiar tingle across her face as the power felt spooled up. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me, but I'm not leaving anyone behind. She turned and charged toward the protected line, mentally commanding her warjacks to follow close behind and leaving the trenches gapping. She immediately impelled the buster forward, using his massive iron bulk as a bulwark between her and the incoming rocket fire. Drawing upon her inner well of arcane power, Maddox sent runes about her fireflies, as she cast spell increasing the storm blaster effective range. She took a moment to view the battlefield through the light warjack eyes, guiding the next shot. Satisfaction filled her as she watched the blast of discharged lightning from the firefly's weapon to strike the exemplar knight directly in the chest, turning him into a blackened husk. Tendrils of lightning arc into several fellows, collating them to a volcanic energies grounded themselves in the earth. Maddox switched her view to the eyes of the lancer, which he had sent running to the guard of her left flank, thrusting its heavy shield to protect from the worst of the protected fire. Its approach gave the Menits an immediate threat to occupy them. The arc notes atop the warjack torso hummed and sparked energy from Maddox used to channel the powerful electrical blast well beyond her normal range. Blue-white lightning blazed as the spell exploded through the cluster flame guard soldiers, the tower shields useless against the arcane attack. With the smoke momentarily concealing the Cygnarians from the enemy, Maddox turned her attention to a pair of crusaders. Even under the control of a jack marshal instead of a warcaster, the two heavy warjacks posed a greatest threat in the field. If they weren't eliminated quickly, her small force would too easily be overwhelmed by the mass of ranked infernity. Maddox took her dual-purpose weapon Tempest in the hand and was currently set for range combat. Its blade divided to revolve a lightning coil in its center. Fed with energy from the storm chamber, she released the lower grip and slid it along the reached grove to lock into the place as crossguard. This snapped tough together as the prongs of the ran along the top to bottom of the weapon, swallowing the lightning coil to create a sword cracking with electricity. She gripped Tempest by its long hilt and advanced as she urged her jacks into the fray. Mentally directing her Firefly and Lancer, Maddox kept her primary focus on Buster. The big blue jack burrowed into the twin Crusader with the power of Firefight Train. Its powerful servos whining, Buster threw the Quackhammer and left behind down the smash into the closest Crusade. The sound of the impact pealed across the battlefield. The ironclad Quackhammer was designed to do much more than inflict physical damage, though. Mechanical equations plates mounted within the head had set to trigger an impact release stored power to send earth-shaking force against anything that vehemency of the weapon. The resulting aftershock caused both Crusaders to stagger and fall, just as Maddox and the Firefly reached the melee. Ruin blazed about her and she unleashed her most potent magical ability, driving upon her inner rage to bestow kinetic force to her battlegroup strikes. While Buster and the Firefly finished off the downed Protectorate Warjacks, Maddox continued on toward the Flame Guard Protectorate. She ignored Manet's tower shield and simply brought her blade down to her single arc, leveraging the might of the magical weapon along with her own power to cleave through both steel and shoulder. She then proceeded forward into the main bulk of the enemy. The Manettes still outnumbered her force, and she was determined to keep their attention on her. Sparks spat as Protectorate's weapons blazed off her armor and power field. The sheer number of blows finally causing it to falter, dangerously exposed. She continued to fight on with fury, cutting down Manettes with precise blow from her weapon as she spit her attention to power along her Warjacks. Maddox watched her helplessly through the eyes of her Lancer as the light Warjacks was overwhelmed by coordinated blow from the Flame Guard spears and the blessed blades that several heavy armor exemplars. Before she felt the tenacity machine's heartfire extinguish, she directed its last strike to impale the knight that dealing the killing blow. She grimaced as she felt the Flame Guard spear pierced her left grave and the superheated spearhead scorched her leg. She reposed, took the offending Flame Guard through the neck before she summoned another burst of arcane lightning to electrocute several more minutes in the flash of blue-white light. Despite this, Maddox felt the additional press for Protectorate troops upon her now that they were free for the Lancer's directions. She could sense the victory slipping away. She was being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Suddenly, the crack of rifle fire erupted to her left. She saw several of the foremost Protectorate troops fall, their white robes blooming red. She heard Sergeant Owen's voice as he kept beside her and ran Manet through her with his bayonet. "Glad you haven't finished the fight here, Major," he shouted. "The rest of the company would never let us live it down to if we were set down our asses while you get Calkins back to all by your own." Maddox allowed herself a small smile as she saw the platoon fall in around her and to engage the disordered enemy. Buster vented a howl-like burst of steam as it finished off the remaining Crusader and strode into the knot of Manettes surrounding her. Beset now in multiple sides, the remaining Protectorate forces lost their will and broke. Morale was often more important than the numbers, and their commanding officer were down. It didn't take long following the battle that the trenches found their missing soldier. To Maddox's relief, the private was in a supply cart near the rear of the protected line. Bound by the weak from blood loss, but alive. The crossbow bolt was still firmly embedded into the soldier. When his comrade moved in to cut him free, the man peered them with the glazed eyes. "What took you lot so long? Thought I was going to have to fight my way out." Sergeant Owens nodded toward Maddox. "Talk to the major. We'd be shining our boots right now, free of your sorry skin if it weren't for her." The woozy soldier looked at Maddox and raised his hand to give an appreciative salute. She returned this smartly, and more certain than ever she had made the right call. No matter the odds, Maddox vowed, she would always be there to make the difference for her men.